Hi, I'm Gary Cox, a Senior Technical Consultant with Bluefish Development Group. And today, as you'll notice, I'm wearing my Alfresco DevCon t-shirt. We just got back a few weeks ago from DevCon in San Jose. And one of the things we always do at DevCon is hear about the new features in Alfresco. So one of the things we wanted to do today is kind of run through some of the stuff that's appeared in Alfresco 4, either 4.0 or 4.1. So if you're a current user of 3.x, basically, and are trying to decide what's out there that might be worth upgrading to 4.x to get, we're going to kind of do a quick run through the major stuff that we thought were cool. Just talk about that in the video, and then actually go over and do kind of a desktop demonstration of some of these features. This may not be every single feature that's out there for 4.x, but this is a lot of the stuff that we found interesting, and just kind of want to go through real quickly each of the new things. So one of the biggest changes, a couple of big changes. The first one I want to talk about is the workflow engine. With 4.x, they've moved from JBPM to activity, and BPM, still supported. You can run it, but now sort of future development is headed in the direction of using activity. Activity has a couple of neat features that we like. It has a pretty good design tool you can run in Eclipse to make your workflows. It also has a more robust administration page for managing your deployments of workflows and monitoring workflows that are in flight. So there's a whole administration web page now. Also, it has native support for Spring Beans, so you can make calls out to classes that you've instantiated by Spring. So this is great. We're already making use of this in a couple of deployments right now. And so that's activity. Another really big change is the use of Solr for indexing instead of just integrated Lucene. This switch allows Solr to run either within the same Tomcat instance as Alfresco, or actually it could be run with the right licensing on a standalone server. So this actually, and the other concept here is the concept of eventual consistence. So we're not reliant anymore on in-transaction updating the Lucene index. The indexes are eventually consistent. So it reduces a lot of the overhead when adding content to the system or modifying content in the system. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about some of the share features. So the share improvements. Share has become a little bit less dependent on the indexes for managing kind of normal browsing around the document library. There's been some performance improvements. There are some new administration features. A lot of the things that you could only do in Explore previously have been now added to the Share admin interface, so that's really nice. I'm glad to see that happen, because we don't want to have to send people off to Explore and then come back to Share to do some admin tasks. So things like the no browser and the trash can and all those types of things are now available through the Share admin page. It's really nice. Also, there's been a significant effort by the developers in Alfresco to make Share easier to customize and develop against, for creating things like custom actions and so forth. And there were a couple talks at the DevCon that were really interesting to go through. Probably too deep detail to go into in a short video like this, but certainly if you look at the blogs at Alfresco, there are a couple of Share developers that blog there and talk about these changes. But if you're a developer and you're working on customizing Share, this should make your life easier. Another big feature for end users is the support for drag and drop. And you can actually just drag and drop files into the document library now instead of using the upload interface. And so that's a convenient feature, and end users will like that. End users are going to see some new options that show up, and we'll talk about that based on some of the new features. So a couple of new things. Activity feed is new, where you basically can get notified of changes to your site by an email. You get kind of a digest of changes that have occurred, and that's a nice feature. It can be disabled or enabled, and you can set it to run at certain intervals, and it will update your users will get updates based on the sites they've gone to, what changes have been made. Another big feature, Alfresco has been focused on the cloud, and one of the primary things you can do with the cloud instance of Alfresco is publish to it from an internal instance of Alfresco. So now there's the concept of sync to cloud, where you can choose documents or folders and so forth that you want to actually synchronize with your cloud instance of Alfresco. So this is a really cool feature, and it's managed basically at the folder and document level through document actions in Alfresco. So those are the buttons are there now. They show up if you have a license that enables Cloud Sync, and you should be able to sync content to your cloud instance. If you want to have certain subset of your content available in a cloud instance, now you can do that. Another big one is now they support for Google Docs integration. You can actually check documents out into Google Docs and work on them in Google Docs, and then check them back into Alfresco. So this integration will mean that your users may not have to have an instance of Office on their desktop. They can make use of the Google Docs interface and check documents in and out from Alfresco into Google Docs. So this can be a really nice feature for anybody that's that heavily uses Google Docs. The last thing I want to talk about is social content publishing. You can actually publish content to different streams, such as YouTube, and we'll walk through kind of an example of setting up a content stream that you can publish to. So that's basically an overview of kind of the major changes. Obviously, there's all sorts of little architectural changes that occur with each version. I know there's been some changes to the architecture of things like CIFS, where they try to improve performance from 3.x to 4.x. But this is sort of the major list we wanted to talk about today. And from here, I'll move over to the desktop and we'll go through some of these features so you can see how they work in Alfresco Share.